I just click buttons until it works.
Yeah, I was running. Yeah, it's working.
Oh my god, it's so serious.
Like you're in front of the. You're in front of the. There we go.
How are you?
How's Jetty today?
All right.
Good, good. Hey, Z? Yeah. We got a microphone? Cool.
No, I thought you had some microphone.
Yeah, I did. I just gotta remember where I put it.
It was hearing itself. Oh.
The projector about freeze. Hey, how are you? Good. All right.
Is there a way we can post on YouTube that?
Are you working up at
The ambulance company. Oh, so is it attached to the regional, Roman regional?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of attached, but also partially owned by the city of Norman.
Yeah, just like it says.
EMSA isn't owned by any hospital. That's just city.
Don't we, I would like to, county tax that pay for the ambulance service. Oh, it's just automatically billed. It's a private company. Because I know.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Because the word is, she had that lady herself. No, he had worked for someone.
The night that night I had a call to Sean Lauderdale. Just trying to give him an update on what one person at least helped me. We ended up talking about another call.
I was there like that. We talked. I think it's just like, and you start his
So
I think
She's going to get another one. Yeah.
I just got on this 32-hour shift. Just got home.
Oh, okay.
Was that a loop?
oh no,
No, that's just
Yeah, live streaming.
recording sound.
Yeah. So everybody's talking here is picking up.
Yeah, I gotta remember what I say now.
Is it on? Does it have a swivel, like automatic? No.
But it's such a
It is a broad. Actually, it's kind of reversed too. Mirror image.
the filming is broadcast.
Oh, okay. I got you. So that's the broadcast.
So like one person is
Yeah, I saw that video.
one person. Like that actually commented so far.
I have used this on this.
Possibly.
So I can.
My RCA,
And then Emma.
Just to see you guys.
He's got to be like.
That's about half. Well, but you're.
You just want me to welcome everybody.
Joke about all the people.
I'm gonna give it until 3:30. Okay. I'll go find it.
We have to pause.
Yes.
That gives me a little.
Probably after Sunday.
Ideally, I like accounts. So it goes down. The only way to go back up. So usually you want to hear
After that, you don't have to take any
now you
more.
got less. Now you got
So yeah, like dishwater. Perform that out.
Okay. So right now it's 7 years.
Okay.
But at 73,
Fake jeans, they probably were,
Slacks that looked dead. Yeah.
No, he was all.
He's Docker-esque. I have to wait to go and look but I don't know if we ever dressed down or not.
You could actually
I don't know. That's probably right.
So you're just taking but they do have the ability they make it.
Yeah.
No. If you don't give it, right? But now I get to a point where but that's the thing. You need to take a but I can't go back to it's always going
You can't mix them, but you could look at some of the other like
The whole family get together. I have your phone number. You said I'll cross you in the state of Oklahoma. You show up. It's kind of how long it's how long. Are you on Netflix right now? Can I on Netflix?
That one we had like, all of this IRA, and take all that IRA. That's no. Those are all in IRA. Some are wrong. Some are traditional. You definitely, then you might end up.
That's right. They didn't get the stands. Yeah, whistle with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you might have less expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just more.
What do I do with this? Okay, we'll just set this right here. Where we're at, for sure. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. On behalf of my family, we really appreciate you coming, remembering Dr. Rao and his work and his life. We just want to start off by reading a letter that a colleague of mine, Matt Matthews, on the Norman campus wrote about Dr. Rao. Last year, my grandfather made a generous donation to the OU Food Pantry to help provide them regular assistance each month that helps food assistance for students and others on need in the Norman campus in the surrounding area. So I'm going to read a letter that Matt Matthews wrote about him. I met Dr. Rao about a year and a half ago, when he walked into the OU food pantry. I was working the desk at the time, and he put a check down on the table and sat down to chat. For the next 2 hours, we talked about everything from the needs on campus to Dr. Rao sharing some stories about when he was at OU and even about his younger days playing sports. I gained a friend during that conversation, and it felt like I had known him for years. A month later, Dr. Rao stopped by again while I was working and put down another check down on the table and sat down. We exchanged stories again, and he talked about his life. One of the most important lessons that Dr. Rao shared with me was generosity. I remember him telling me that money was meant to be shared with those who needed it, and he would tell me the various places that he would like to support. It was apparent that giving and supporting to others was the most important thing for him. Dr. Rao was a very special man. His legacy will go on at OU through his endowment to the OU Food Pantry. The Vaidy S. Rao and Carol J. Rao Fund will support the OU Food Pantry for years and years. When he told us that he was planning on putting this endowment together for the OU Food Pantry, we were blown away. This gift will serve and support so many students and staff members who face food insecurity and will help our team keep shelves stocked. This donation displayed his best qualities, generosity and service. Our team will miss Dr. Rao. We will miss his stories and his company. We are thankful that we get to honor him during our awards banquet in May, that we got to honor him during our awards banquet in May 2022 as our community donor. Our team sends our love and support to Dr. Rao's family, and we wish we could be there today. We love you and miss you, Dr. Rao. Thank you for leading the life we so will live. Thank you, everyone, for coming. If you would like to come up here and say a word about Dr. Rao, your time with him, any stories shared, you can always do so. And thank you. And we appreciate you all coming. No, there's not.
Just talk.
Yeah. Loud booming noise.
We're having a lot of.
I'm going to stand here because is that on the. So, this is going to be over a few hours, today's ceremony. And when Pam talked to me about it back after Vaidy's sudden passing, I was thinking about what thoughts would come to my mind when we talked about someone who impacted our lives so much. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Pramod Chetty. I'm an anesthesiologist. I've been at OU from 1990. I had gone into private practice in 97 for a few years. And during that time, and prior to that, I had met this kind, shockingly white, thick-haired Indian gentleman who reminded me of my father so much, temperament, size, eating habits, and all that. And we had met and exchanged pleasantries for the few years before I left in 97. And in 2002, when I came back with Dr. Jane Fitch coming into the university, and there was the whole rebound that was going on. The thing that when I look back, maybe 20 years now, that was of the greatest personal sustenance and joy for me was meeting up with Dr. Vaidy Rao. For those of you who may not know this, Dr. Rao trained back in India. I found out he zealously protected the chronology of his life, for those of you who knew him. And we traveled together. If you look at those albums there, we went to China twice. I had no idea of his age at that time. And all I could tell him was, you think you could do it? And he'd look back at me and say, do you think you can do it? Because the man was an amazing athlete. So he was born in the middle of India, a place in Hyderabad, the Secunderabad place that is just known to me peripherally. He was born into a large joint Hindu family. We got to spend a lot of time talking about life in general. I learned a lot from him, not because he was one of the most senior anesthesiologists you could find anywhere in the world, I would say, but because he was one of those people who was generous of spirit and time. Those of us who are getting longer on the tooth know that the most valuable position we have actually in this life is time. And Vaidy was very generous with his time, and we shared a lot of time together. And I learned about his life as a young man. He was an outstanding athlete. He told me he never thought he'd get into medical school too busy playing every game he could. It was not a game he could not take to. He said it was like a duck taking the water, and he excelled in everything he did. But he got into one of the most well-known medical schools in Hyderabad, and while he was in medical school, I don't know if anything's been mentioned about what he did while on the campus here in Norman as a member of the faculty here. He made some changes at the University of Oklahoma at the stadium. I'll just segue that to say that Dr. Rao was ahead of his time. He got the smoking in the stadium at OU stopped as the first in the whole of the Big 12 on the basis of secondhand smoke and it's unhealthy. He did not fear anyone when he knew that it was something that was right for everyone, and he did. That's the type of character he had. He told me the story about how they were getting pittance as young doctors in India, and the three of them, he and his two classmates, went to the minister of the state for health. And those of you who have ever traveled to a third world country or India for right now, you realize the bureaucracy is amazing. He was tenacious, and he got them actually paid for doing the work that they were doing. And this was back in the 50s. He told me this, he regaled me with these stories. And we traveled together to China twice, so we had a lot of time in flights. And he'd pick up a topic and talk. And what I realized about Dr. Rao was he was a truly Renaissance person. He had traveled all over this world. He took his family all over the world, even within the field of anesthesia. I came back in 2002, the one thing I knew was if there was ever an issue that I needed some help with, I knew that there was someone, a colleague, a friend, a mentor that I could go to and ask for assistance. And I remember we'd have, being in the university hospital, we get the pick of the lot, right? We get all the cases that pretty much are not done anywhere else in the city. And, I'd look to him and say, boy, I got a real difficult case. And he'll say, and those of you who know him will know that look, he'll just nod, purse his lips and say, call me, and that's the type of journey that I've had with Dr. Rao. And for the last 20 years, as he went from being a busy practitioner, running the whole of the adult university hospital setup, to him slowly tapering back and eventually retiring. There were so many things I learned from him. One of the things that he and Gail is sitting right here, and she knows this better than most probably anyone else. He single-handedly built and evolved a system by which our department and many of the people on the campus, for that matter, would have their ACLS, which is a requirement that we all have as certification as physicians and nurses and health practitioners to have. Dr. Rao was the local expert in that for the American Heart Association. And he was so generous in giving of his time. He would literally make time on a weekend to help out someone who was at a deadline and needed help to get the certification. I've never met someone who was so generous and so willing to help other people. That was Dr. Rao. He taught me so many things, number one of which is his humility and generosity. And I will never forget that impact that it made on me. I always feel like that's sort of unattainable for a person like me, but just his easy does it. Have you seen that cap that he had? I think there was a photograph somewhere there, and his attitude about just take it easy. He was the ultimate cool guy in the OR. He was the type of person you wanted when you had a problem. So, I mean, the flood of thoughts that go through my mind when I think of him, as he started getting less able to drive and get around, I'd go up to Norman to visit with him. And we had wonderful talks. Every evening at a certain time, we'd check in with each other. And he always had something. He was an intensely curious individual. And that's why I think his mind was so sharp. We were talking about it even to the very end. And I reminded him that when we were on a cruise in China, this is a few days before he passed, about how there were, I can't remember, I said, wasn't it like 200 steps to get to the top of from the boat to the temple? He said 386. And I just first of all, the day we did that, those of you who knew Dr. Rao knew he had a knee injury from a fracture playing what was racquetball, soccer, and he had a tibial fracture, and he had a really difficult time with his knee. At 77, he climbed those steps. So when I asked him, "Do you think you can do it?" He looked at me and said, "You think you can do it?" So the challenge was on. So we both made it up there, and we had some wonderful times together traveling. You could not ask for a better travel companion. He was so kind, so accommodating, and my thoughts with the family. I've had an opportunity to meet with most of the family, and Pam and Chris towards the end when we got back there and I was visiting with them. They were so kind and gracious and helpful to him. One of Vaidy's favorite terms, there is a God. Anything happened, you look at me and say, there is a God. And I just wonder, I always used to wonder that where did he get this conviction from? Because when he grew up in a different country, in a different age, with a completely different background, and he's living in Norman, Oklahoma. And to me, he was the epitome of a gentleman and one of the kindest human beings I've ever known. So I think what I want to remember about Vaidy is the things that he brought to me as a good person, something that all of us can look forward to emulate. There's not a day in the last few months that I haven't checked myself to say, I'll watch something on TV that is really illuminating a fact, whether it be science or politics, and say, I got to call, because I would call Vaidy and he'd say, yep, watching it. What do you think of this? And we'd share this rapport about things that were interesting, that made life a little more, interesting. And that was the type of person he was. So for all of you who are gathered here, as we think back on the life of this wonderful individual, coming from a small, Hyderabad's not a small town, but he described the street on which he lived, the house in which he lived. And he said from that point, he and his brother ended up in the United States. His brother worked up in New York at the Rockefeller University, wasn't it? And these two men blazed a trail coming all the way to this great country, and it's left an impact on all of us. So thank you for the opportunity to talk. And I just say we raise the proverbial glass and say, cheers to Vaidy for a life well lived. Thank you.
You're a hard act to follow. My name is Lee Greenleaf. I met Vaidy Rao 1976. When I'll just ask, how many people have ever been involved with pre-hospital care? Well, you can thank Vaidy for that, because when I moved here from Georgia in 1975 as a paramedic, there was no paramedic act in the state of Oklahoma. And Vaidy became interested and worked with us and got a paramedic act happening. And by 1978, it was a law in the state of Oklahoma. So because of that, we had pre-hospital care that could do something. Vaidy not only did that, but because there was no courses or anything else, he worked with the committee at Norman and taught the paramedics there. I was one of those guys. Even though I'd been through a course in Georgia, I still had to come back and go through a whole other course here because that's the way the state wanted it. And so we went through surgery, which I definitely enjoyed, but it was because of Vaidy. His techniques in teaching IVs, his techniques in teaching us how to tube. When I graduated the course, Vaidy was there, and he handed me a little box, and I opened it up, and it was a modified #4 Macintosh blade because he liked the way I tubed. And I still have it. I'm not a paramedic anymore, and I wish I could be. But Vaidy was special in the way he treated all of us. He liked it when we called him a gas passer. He was special to paramedics, and he liked to be around us as well. You know, we're a little bit different, keyed, shall we say? But we're the ones that go out there where nobody else will. And because of him, Oklahoma has a Paramedic Act. And because of him, it's thriving more and more every day. So thank you, Vaidy.
This is kind of risky because I was just looking at the pictures and I started to cry. So I'm not sure how far I'm going to get. My name is Sharon Parker, I'm a nurse. A couple other nurses, Norman, with Vaidy, since for decades, late 70s. I worked on pediatrics. It was not by choice, but they were short of people, so they put me there. And it took me not more than a week or two to realize that when children had tonsillectomies, the ones that came back that were awake, happy, little pain, no bleeding, no vomiting, were all patients of Vaidy Rao. All the other ones came back with issues. So one day I said to him, I said, Vaidy, what is it? And he said, I'm a pediatric anesthesiologist, and I take it very seriously. And I looked at every patient and modified whatever he was doing to that patient. Well, that stuck with me. So from then on, the only person who did anesthesia in my family was Vaidy. So many years later, I had to have a procedure done, and I was scared to death. So Vaidy did the procedure, and when it was over, he came to check on me, post-op care, and said, I said, Vaidy, you did a great job with that endotracheal tube. My son doesn't even hurt. And he said, Sharon, I didn't put one in. I held your head the whole time, so I never had to have that. This is the kind of man that he was. And then later on, we got to play racquetball. My husband and I would play. Vaidy was always playing with somebody, and he was good. So I got brave enough to play with him one time. I got like 2 points ahead, and you don't ever lose to Vaidy Rao. So he started doing these different moves, and I said, what is that? And he said, oh, that's a squash move, and it's okay in racquetball. I said, are you sure? So he was all over the court with these little moves, high, low, he ran me ragged. So I learned after that, don't ever try to beat him, just go with the flow. He was the most remarkable doctor I've ever worked with.
Okay, I know I talked before, but got to talking about racquetball. I needed to share like some personal stories, a little personal touch from grandson to grandfather. So just some things that I jotted. It would be really quick, but as a grandson growing up, there were certain things that you just understood from your grandfather, Dr. Rao, that they're just crack you up. One, my entire life, I don't think my grandfather ever aged, ever. Like, he always had the white hair. And I don't know if Casey can speak to this or not, but never saw the man wear a t-shirt ever. It was amazing. He always loved to be like just button up, tidy, always looking his best. Even I like never wore a t-shirt. So, you know, he and my grandmother owned some properties as well. So we were always, my brother and I, my uncle Mike, we were always like cleaning something, doing something, mowing a lawn, weed whacking, and he would be out there in his button-up, cut-off sleeve T-shirt. And so we would be cleaning air conditioning units, which weighed like half a ton, and carrying them, and he would be right there, button-up shirt right there with slacks and his brown shoes. And it just always cracked me up. Growing up, there was another thing. We were always, my brother and I, my family, always, we were talking about a fierce fan of University of Oklahoma athletics, like absolute fierce fan. Growing up, little kid, always going to basketball games, always sitting with my grandparents in the same section for over 20 years with my grandparents at football games. On to racquetball. I never knew how upset I could make my grandfather when I finally beat him. But I mean, I beat him. He was in his 60s with a limp, but I beat him. And one of the best days of my life. I kid you not. Like beating that man at racquetball is something to be cherished because he was unreal racquetball player. And then I also didn't know the fury of my grandfather when Casey and I would horse around or goof around on lengthy trips to anywhere we were going, especially international. And we would just be wreaking havoc. My grandmother would be loving it. Carol Rout, my grandmother, would be loving it. She loved it. And then my grandfather, like, just not having it. Just hilarious. I don't know if I can just say this because I was his grandson, but just making that man mad when I was younger, like he would get mad, but quick to get over it because he was so lovable and he knew that like he loved just having his grandsons along on a trip, you know, just horsing around. And it was great. And then you cannot mention Dr. Rao without mentioning Indian food. And it seems like a small thing, but the man was also an amazing cook. And I don't know if many people know that. Because of that man, I grew up on Indian food. And I'm trying to pass it, and I have passed it to my children. And it is something that I always will cherish because you go over to his house and there would be something, either chicken curry, chicken tikka masala, rice, just anything. It would always be there. The aroma would be there. And it was being a doctor and cooking for his family. Those are the two things that he loved. And how he could commune with others is cooking for other people and being in a gathering. He loved gatherings. He would host parties at his house. And it's just one of those small little things, just a little personal touch that he did. And the last thing I'll end with is when you did something that you were proud of, you knew you were going to get like excitement from my grandmother, but when you heard "good job, Matthew," and he said it in a certain way, and I don't know if you guys ever also experienced this, you got the good job. And that's what I'll leave, because it's something that will stick. So I'll end with that.
Well, this was our first open mic session. We'll have another one at 4 o'clock for those of you trying to work up the courage. But we all loved him, so we all love each other. So don't worry about anybody, throwing food at you or anything. I won't let it happen. I won't let it happen. So 4 o'clock. In the meantime, we still got lots of food.
Yeah, you did take out some good stuff. We still need it. Watching Murder, She Wrote. Oh, yeah. I know. That's right.
I was just calling that.
And then so it's important. Whether it's your learning or I'm not gonna make it. Sarcastic and honest.
That's why we always got these.
Like sarcasm. As much as I spit out. It
was fun times. Casey and I were constantly in trouble. But it was fun. We sat out.
Well, I know. And that was something you don't have clear. Like even our yeah, I have this
I can't explain it, but that's whatever working is working is going on wherever that phone
There's that. We always. Definitely not forget that.
Well, it's 4 o'clock, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and start this round of open mic. Wish me luck. I, I did want to start with a message that I received from Mahesh Jambu Nathan. And I think that this exemplifies as much as anything how even though we've heard about all that Dad did in the medical field and in the field of paramedics and policy at OU football stadium, so many things that he pushed for or innovated with or advocated for. But it was never anything, or let me put it this way, nothing was too small for him to consider an important thing to be done. This is a message that was sent to me. It says, I was one of the first from our extended family to reach the United States after Uncle Vaidy had come long before. Fate would have me land in Oklahoma City, which was where Uncle Vaidy had settled. And when I reached out to him, he was so happy to see me. He came all the way from Norman, took me back to his house, fed me and my friend home-cooked meal, and happily chatted about our past. He was known for his discipline and his work ethic, which he demonstrated to the very end. He was a great man, and I'm proud to have known him and been associated with him. May his soul rest in peace. In trying to share with you some of the memories that I had of Dad, I think it probably would communicate to you how awesome he was just to tell you why I can call him Dad. He had met my mother in the mid-70s. She was doing his accounting work for him. And one thing leading to another, they developed a relationship, and I was having none of it. It just had to do with my feelings about having another stepfather. It was that simple. But how he won my heart was, I was 17 years old, and he asked if he could adopt me. In another year, being 18, what would be the point? But it was important enough to him that we become a family that he wanted me to have the last name of Rao. The second thing he did, I had every intention of joining the Army. I had no plans for the future. And there was an afternoon when he said to me, so what college you going to? I was flabbergasted. I was like, well, I thought I was going to join the Army and have him put me through nursing school. No. And so suddenly I was looking for colleges. And it was what I remember as not just a feeling of finally having a paternal figure to look out for me. I'm not going to make it. But also being part of a family. Whew. In going through stuff, I have found almost every Father's Day card that I ever gave him. Oh, I think it's somebody else's turn. So if anybody else would like to just share, I'm going to go gather myself together over here. And it's open mic.
Hello, my name is Casey. I am my grandfather's grandson. These are just a few photos, and I can't convey enough how much they're just a sliver of all that there is, all the stories that there are to tell about my grandfather's life. And thankfully, I can say my life with my family and with him. There's just so much to say. And there's, in addition to these photos, there's a lot of things that happened that were, no one had a camera around, but there's so many memories that are still meaningful. And growing up, I thought that that's just how life was. Like, I guess I assumed that everyone had a grandfather who was Indian. It's wrong. I guess I assumed that everyone got a chance to go to India or Canada. And when I grew up, continued to have those experiences, I got to learn just how lucky I was, how lucky we were to be able to experience those things as a family. And we were able to experience those things because of my grandfather and his views on what one does with a family and for a family, what one does for those you care about. His ideas about what experiences a family should have, all that derives from him. And it's been mentioned, I think Matt mentioned it, like, he has that great hair, and I don't think he aged. At least you can kind of tell that he aged throughout some of these photos, but he was just always the same to me. And I was looking at those photos yesterday, and I realized yesterday that it's not just his complexion or his hair that's always stayed the same. It was him, and I realized that was sort of a blessing just as much as the trips were, in that he never had a different shade to him. He never was a different person. He wasn't a different person between the 80s and the 90s. He was always grandpa. If I had a question to ask him, I kind of knew what the answer was going to be. If I had to ask something from him because I needed something, I knew what the answer was going to be. If I had done something stupid, or if I decided not to be a doctor, I knew what the answer was. The response was going to be. And it's that consistency, that commitment to each other and to those around us that he exemplified. And and consistency, when applied to family and friends and colleagues, becomes something higher. It becomes fidelity, faithfulness to those around us. And my grandfather, he really did that. If you're in this room, I know that at some point in time he cared about you and concerned about you. He worried about you. He worried about you to somebody else. He probably talked about you to someone else in a loving way, because he was worried about something you were doing. He wanted to make sure you were okay. He was always looking for a way to benefit you. That was just who he was. And just as much as I assumed that everyone had an Indian grandfather, that everyone had experiences I had, I was lucky enough to assume that that's just how it goes, that you care for those you can care for and that you live a life that benefits others as best you can. And that's something that I'll always remember from him. His commitment to others and his generosity to others.
I think most of the people are already gone. I just want to share some.
Please do.
My name is Raghu Ganta. I'm an anesthesiologist at the hospital. I used to work at the university hospital before. So I interacted with him. When I first interacted with the OU many times. And before that, first time I met him was August 1991. I came to Oklahoma City. That my fifth or sixth day, and went to one of the HAPI meeting, American Association of Physicians from Indian origin. I went there, one of the senior psychiatrists said, you have to meet one senior anesthesiologist. He took me there and got introduced to him. And then in a conversation it came, he asked me about so-and-so person, famous surgeon in Hyderabad. That's where he comes from. He worked with him. And do you know him? I said, he's my uncle. Ever since we got the link, he's always inquired about my uncle. And whenever he came here, he came and met him. Every time he went there with his wife, he met my uncle there. And his cousin and my uncle were close friends. And that's how I came to know him very closely. But he's a very versatile anesthesiologist, not only adult anesthesiologist, he was also anesthesiologist for children. He had a great talent. I've seen him many times at the university. Every time there's a difficulty in the airway, but Paquet, Dr. Medina, they used to call Dr. Rao. He used to come with his bougie and used to take care of those days. He never used to use the fiber optic or we didn't have kaleidoscope. Anesthesiologists know what I'm speaking about. That talent. Let me give an example. I used to be the program director for anesthesia review for many years. I didn't have to ask him. He used to volunteer. Raghu, what is the lecture? I can talk on journey through anesthesia. And he will talk on anesthesia equipment. And several things we together did. ACLS, BLS, anytime new updates come. And he used to come and share with us. And we used to have a scientific exhibits, American Society of Anesthesiologists conferences. And he's so fluent in several Indian languages, Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, and of course English. And not only worked in India, he was assistant professor in Osmania Hospital, very prestigious hospital in South India. And my uncle was a professor, he was assistant professor, and he happened to give anesthesia for his cases. From there, he went to, I think, England, from England to Canada, Canada to Wisconsin, from Wisconsin to Norman. He worked many years now, probably you know better how many years. And just before he came to OU, Raghu, I'm coming to OU. I was so thrilled that he's coming here, university. And that's about his clinical acumen. One more example I had to give. One of his lectures, he said, he was working in one of the women's hospital. They were going to go for women's hospital. There was an emergency. They were going to go for emergency C-section. That hospital is very remote from Hyderabad, and he had to go there. He could not find the endotracheal tube. Then he said he saw one Foley catheter, stiff one. He cut it. He had the joint connections. Somehow he intubated. He put the tube in, that Foley tube, and put some gauze or something, prevent the leakage and maintain with the hand ventilation successfully perform patient survive. That's the example he gave. There are several like that. He gave a lot of tips to the medical students. Hope I'm not taking too much of that. Medical students, I give a lot of tips to junior faculty, how to be calm and quiet as anesthesiologist. When surgeon gets angry, throws the instrument, you have to be quiet, they will be completely diffused out. I've heard him speaking many times. And it's very unusual. Anesthesiologist working so many years. He must have worked like 55 years. That's amazing. Great achievement. As anesthesiologist working, his dedication, sincerity, and never wanted to go home. And he had his own excellent medical ethics, great interpersonal skills. Quiet person, great talents, and great clinical skill. And this is about clinical skill. Let me get about the academic. Academics, he tried to do a lot of research in history. You must have heard from that Chetty already. I don't want the repetition. And he published something with a small mask for edentulous patients, how to ventilate. He had a bougies and also always updated ACLS and BLS. At the Norman Regional Hospital, paramedics, a lot of people learned how to take care of the patient. That's very important, CPR, for the life-saving measures. He explained, he was the instructor many, many years. And that Paquet, that Postia, and all these people, those used to love him, and particularly Medina, ENT surgeon. And very personable, anything I complain, but unfortunately, I could not keep in touch with him last few months, but I used to talk to him once in a while and share. He used to inquire about my uncle, and we used to talk other things. And my son went to attend some CLS, BLS, he took care of him. And every time it made it easy for all VA faculty, not only VA, all the university faculty, residents, to get the training quickly, ACLS. Rather than getting hours to the computer, you made people a lot easier and a lot facilitating to a lot of people there in the community. We miss him. I know I don't want to take too much of your time. A lot of other things are there, stories I don't want to go. But even that age, he was so curious and short in his mind. He could remember latest article, latest book. Still, he would be innovative and inquisitive of learning and trying to publish at this age. And congratulations for his Professor Emeritus. But he is not with us, but we have all his fond memories with us forever. And his kind and calm words will be echoing forever. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity. We pray our prayers and thoughts for his soul departed soul. Thank you.
So hi, my family is over here, and we have the pleasure of being, you guys call him Mr. Vaidy's neighbor for the last 6-7 years. I don't remember how long it is, and so we didn't know Vaidy when he was practicing medicine, and we didn't know all of those stories. We just know him as our neighbor who we live next door to. Sorry, hard not to cry. And so we learned really quick that he was a retired anesthesiologist. I think one night, so we have 6 kids. We frequent the emergency room for something often enough. And so I think after living there for about 6 months or so, he was like, do not ever go to the emergency room again call me. I don't care what time of the night it is, and I'll let you know if you really have to go. So I don't know how many trips he saved us to the emergency room. You'll have to ask the boys because I think he glued or bandaged something back together for just about all of them. What I do remember is the most memorable time was April 2020. So it was like right after the whole world shut down. And of course, my husband and I, Brian, are working from home, and we kind of told the kids, just go into the backyard, play, and don't bother us unless someone's bleeding. Well, someone started bleeding. So I think it was a baseball bat to the head or something. So all I know is I get a knock on the door, and it's like, Mom, it's an emergency. And here's my son, like blood everywhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the whole world's shutting down. Do we really want to go to the ER? And so we called Baby, and we're like, oh, can you help us? And so here he comes over with like a surgical mask in the middle of COVID to, bandage everything back up. And I think he's done quite a few ER saving trips. But one thing I do remember is his generosity and his sharing of everything that he has. He's given us football game tickets, and he's given us tickets to go see musicals in Oklahoma City, and he's given us so much. But my second oldest son plays the violin, and I think when he was like 6, maybe, he's like squawking on the violin, like, sorry, Bennett, and Vaidy was like, I have something for him, and calls Hey Mom on the phone. Next thing I know, he brings us like this beautiful full-size violin that no 6-year-old should have. But we still have the violin, and we thank him for it. Of course, now that it's much older and it's much more enjoyable to listen to. But I mean, his generosity and just giving and giving and giving, and never wanting anything in return. We'd invite him over for dinner and he'd come here and there, but I'm just so generous with everything. So he's been an absolutely amazing neighbor, and I'm so glad that we had the chance to spend the last few years with him.
See if I can try this again. So he died October 27th, and his specific instructions that I received at least 3 times in weeks before he passed: just bury me next to your mom, that's all I want. Just family, no service, just bury me next to your mom, that's all I want. So the last time I got those instructions, I was like, okay, got it. And I'm already plotting stuff in my head. So thank you so much, but you're all now accomplices. And you're sharing the trouble we're going to get together. Okay. But I think that, that this is what needed to happen. When you have a human being that touches so many people's lives in so many ways and taught us all so many lessons, not just about life and work, but life and love and compassion and doing the right thing. When we had the graveside service, first of all, in case you didn't know, people in the back are all smiling right now, I forgot his ashes. Yeah. But it turned out to be probably what made it a much more, not a joyous event. But before we realized I had left the ashes on the fireplace at home, nobody really wanted to talk. Everybody was just very, very sad, and nobody really wanted to share anything. But after I had to turn around and look at everybody and say, it's going to be like 15 more minutes while somebody goes to get the ashes. People were, laughing mostly at me, but laughing. And the kids started running around the tombstones, and it gave everybody a chance to exhale and just remember why we were there and who we were there for. Zeke was lucky he didn't get a ticket. Yes. You probably would have known whoever pulled you over. But I had a hard time getting through this that I'm about to read then, but hopefully I can get through it now. It's called Miss Me But Let Me Go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each one must go alone. It's all a part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When we're lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. Unless there's somebody else that wants to share. We still got so much food left. Instead of saying open mics at 5, why don't we just say, if you are so moved to come up, just come on up. We'll be quiet for you. Okay.
That's all right. I think urban.
You what?
You need to get your mom to bring you over that.
I've seen pictures.
I sold 5, 6 the last 2 weeks. We don't have anything more expensive. Most of our sold for we got the biggest breaker in the United States. It's in the city. It's got the not too long ago, it's got 50,000 one night, one night. I would be already I'll show you one. We just had a baby. Two crosses. Well, we name all the things. Oh, I meant chicken. You know, when my daughter raised things, they named all the cats. Like we did one thing, this will be 6 years from now. It's a dollar assessment. He's a section. So he's a flat, so he's not funny. Here's another flat. That's a impact
Because that's those 2,000. So if we do because we're
See the look on her face. I don't know. Yeah, we're going from living to. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. No.
It was right on Jenkins Street. It was, they were in there, and actually,
Now,
if
he
I
had a,
understand it correctly.
once he took off with the clip, he mentioned this.
They can come, worked it up so that it was originally, it was supposed to be.
Oh my God. He's just like. I'm feeling bad for the guy. You're over there going, "Cardi." I know.
Go and give that check. And that. He had signed the paperwork. That's the one
Feeling like.
I'm just gonna go over here and get this. Oh, they're
I see something consistent with oranges. But you vary it with. That's actually what you use. What? Oh. And I thought I'd be eating stuff. My kid.
Oh, we got.
Oh, Russell said.
But it's a different kind of money.
I have that he wants to do it, but you don't see it like.
Oh, yeah.
It's still on I mean, he did. Pushed it a bit.
Well, of course, the boys. We're away. Yeah. My youngest. Yeah, she broke her foot in that way. Final one was in December. Lots of
That's our retirement. We're doing I don't know what.
The only issue we had over the summer was starting basketball. So we had no cap left. That cost a few millions. But that's probably what you want. It's revenue.
And you hear that, but then you hear that apparently.
Oh, they were doing the sports medicine.
Yeah. A guy that.
Because that's who the why or something.
Yeah.
No, I look at it.
Actually, on the same flight with us, we were I booked, so I had to book Ian's flight to Charles de Gaulle. Her no, we will. It'll be nice. We have
A lot of people are
they have that. I love growing up on the street. Just where we would go. Do it. See you when I see you. Heck yeah, I did. I'll try not to get in any trouble. Safe travels. Will do.
maybe that's what it is. Sometimes it's
If you take on the rest. It was totally. Periodically go over there just to make it look like somebody's going.
And I go over there and just change different lights on.
Yeah, we should.
That was their wrapping paper. Yeah, I was gonna hand it. Thought they were the same. So proud. So. Yeah, she bought me the grandpa card. I'm looking at it, I'm like, what do you think? She goes, have fun with it. She goes, oh no, I just thought it was a funny card. Because I'm not pregnant or anything. Girlfriend up with lunch Saturday. Filled the whole block with avocado. She's hungry. I'll try one for you.
I'm here too.
Do it. I will answer it. Nine one one. I'm right down the street.
And then I'm finishing the sentence in my head. But for us,
don't have a little bag. Well, adults is where you run into. Right. Get my bag. Oh, my bag. Right.
No kidding. Oh my God.
Be traveling past your house. Good to see you.
Oh, I guess I was thinking the church.
I wasn't organized enough to get a gift bag to this. And when you get there,
Yeah, I'll give the number at any time.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you.
I know. Yes, yes.
I couldn't find too many pictures of you. And this one kept saying one bite. I don't know if you already have that.
Well, I actually gave him
Yeah.
the picture, but I don't have it printed.
Yes.
I love it.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay, I will get
I have some Ziploc bags. This Ziploc bags.
Oh, sure, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, she's got boxes. Oh, there is. What?
All I'd say is, I was gonna say is, primal. Okay.
Hey, if I put it in a chair, I need to carry it. Smart.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Did we go in the first gathering? Here. What was the name of the guy you said was talking so we need to go with him.
Here we are. Hey, no, we didn't. Strawberries. You want the strawberries? No.
I'm assuming, right? Well, it's like, I don't need to send it that.
Did you get something out of it? I should go for Yeah, it was a mistake earlier. Okay, thank you. Bye. I don't know where it is. There it is.
Blue
No. There was another product.
I know. There's a couple in there that I want to. Oh, I didn't give it a chance. She is. Right, so I'm sure it's not from us. Yes. What is that? Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. That's secretaries. But that's your dad next to him, right? Yes. That would have been in 76 or 77. So, born in 35. How many people do you think? Oh, no. Well, it depends on which birthday you step by. Well, I know, you get excited. Well, I only do two. Yeah, but there was a different year. One forever, he said it was 1965. Somebody that, like, on a WhatsApp post, who had pushed his birthday. Well, actually,
This is stop, right? This is stop, right?
And then he also had his uncle to sign up for school.